Hello everyone, welcome back to another remote sensing lecture video. And in this lecture video, I want to continue our discussion on image interpretation by talking about this idea of pattern. Right, so up to this point, we've talked about color, which was the color or tone if it was black and white, which is the intensity of that gray value of an object. And we've talked about shape. And I said that those two things can get you a very long way in image interpretation. The third most important would be this idea of pattern. Now, pattern is to sort of loosely defined as the arrangement of objects in the image. Right, or if you're looking at a group of objects, right, say a forest, for example, that's a group of trees, right, the arrangement of those trees, right, that's pattern. And so just sort of broadly, right, there's they're structured, right, so this means, it could mean something like linear, right, things can be structured in a line, they could be structured in a grid, right, and then there's random, there's clustered, right, these are all sort of these buzzwords that you're used to hearing that basically just describe, well, how are things arranged, right? Is there some sort of obviously human structure to it, like there would be with roads, for example, right? In a subdivision, right? Roads tend to follow a structure. Maybe it's a gridded structure, like a block structure, like you'd see in New York City. Maybe it's clustered, right? Maybe you have a situation where you're trying to grow trees, and the way that you would grow them would be to have little groups of trees. More likely, right, if you're doing trees, we're going to look at an example like that in a second, they would be in a linear fashion, right? Kind of like corn rows, right? Where you have farm fields where there's just lines. There's a linear structure that has a directionality to it. Or maybe it's random, right? Things like, again, I mentioned the word forest, like the idea of a forest before, right? Where you don't have human intervention keeping things aligned, right? They're just sort of growing wherever they can grow. So hopefully these make sense. These are just some of the buzzwords. But again, the idea here is that we're using some adjectives to describe how the objects are arranged. And what I want to do is I want to go through an example image. So this right here on the left, right, this is part of an image. And what I want to do is I want to look at 3 or 4 different areas to show you the idea of what I mean when I say pattern. So what I want to do here is I want to look at this area right here. Right, this area right here is this image here. I've blown it up a little bit so you can really see the pattern. And then we have this area right here. I want to use a different color. Right, this area right here, right, that is this image over here. Right, so hopefully we can both agree that these are trees. But what we also can hopefully agree on is that this one down here, so let's go ahead and slide over just a little bit, give ourselves a little bit more room here. All right, what we can hopefully agree on is that this image right here, right, this pattern, this is a random pattern. Right, these trees, like there's a tree, right? It's very random. Now, obviously, this has been manicured along the edges to maintain farm fields, but within this patch of what I would call forest right here, or maybe this is more of a corridor, but within this patch right here, the arrangement of the trees is random. So this is a random pattern. Versus up here, right, we have tree, 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 right? This is a linear pattern, linear regular pattern. Right, this is structured. And if we look at the overall image right here, right, we would hopefully get the sense that this is some sort of an orchard. And this is a windrow or a small corridor of forest designed to separate farm fields. Now, I will tell you from personal experience, because I've actually been here, that this is indeed an apple orchard, right? Each one of these little green dots right here, right, that is an apple tree. And these are different types of oaks and maples and different trees that grow in the region. So again, I just want to reiterate here that with structure, right, this is just one example where we have random here, and then we have a structured, in this case, a linear pattern here. And there's all sorts of patterns, right? Not just these are just two obvious examples, right? There's all sorts of patterns. Again, road networks in New York City would be a pattern where you have that grid shape of blocks. So hopefully that makes sense. And in the next video, we're going to talk about something kind of related to pattern called texture. So again, if you have any questions, go back, rewatch the parts you're confused about. And as always, please reach out. Thank you.